Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Jacob Wyckoff here, joined by our executive weather producer, Terry Ellison. Terry, we are knocking on the doorstep of yet another big snowstorm, potentially impactful snowstorm, and this comes on the heels of record-breaking temperatures yesterday.
I mean, it was 69 degrees less than 24 hours ago, Jacob.
Yeah.
What are we doing here, right? I mean, we had a 47-degree drop overnight. It was a low of 22 this morning. And here we go, right behind you. Winter storm warnings are posted. This is the third time this month we've had a record high temperature followed by some sort of snow. It was the Valentine's Day snow, then it was the snow squall, that crazy snow squall last weekend, and now we're talking maybe a foot of snow somewhere.
Yeah, so let's break it all down. That's why you're joining us here on CBS News Boston, also on Facebook Live. As it is with Facebook Live, feel free to chime in any questions, anything that you want to bring up. We'll try to get to some of those questions in just a little bit. So we do have the winter storm warning in effect for pretty much the heart of the state. As you go south of Norfolk County towards Bristol and Plymouth County, this is a question mark zone right now, and same story into parts of Rhode Island and northern Connecticut. This is an area we'll have to watch for how much mixing we actually get, that transition over from snow, which I think we all get an initial thump of snow. Where do we actually transition over? That is why they are at the moment in a winter storm watch. So it plays out like this. 2 o'clock in the morning, we're starting to get our first snowflakes that arrive, picking up as you go towards the morning commute. This is 4, 5. You see those deeper shades of blue. It's going to be indicative of some of those heavier snowfall rates. And then there's that sleet mixing on in. So I think it's safe to say north of the Pike, generally speaking, a little bit less mixing. South of the Pike, certainly a lot more mixing. And so we're figuring out, and it's almost one of those things that we have to watch this in real time as the storm progresses to see how warm that layer just above the ground actually is. We're mainly snow as you go north into parts of southern New Hampshire and Vermont. That's where we see the transition from snow over to sleet, and then we get an initial thump of snow, and that pretty quickly transitions over from snow over to sleet and rain. So the timing of this, 4 in the morning to 7 in the morning. As you get closer to the heart of the morning commute is when we'll start to see that transition over for the Mass Pike and just to the south of there, and then a little bit later through the midday as you go towards the northern border. This is what we're thinking when it comes to our snowfall totals, 8 to 12 inches of snow for pretty much central and northwestern parts of the state, northern, central, and then into the Berkshires, 8 to 12 inches. As you get closer to 128 into Bristol and Plymouth County, that's where we cut down on some of the totals because of the sleet mixing on in. 2 to 4 inches as you go towards the southeast coastline, and the Cape and Islands, quite a bit less. You pretty quickly change over to that sleet. And Terry, this is kind of following the path that we've seen with a lot of these storms, that they haven't been true snowmakers. We've had one true snowmaker, that was the blizzard. Yeah. And a lot of our storms have had that sleet line mixing on in. And so it's just one of those things we have to track almost in real time.
Yes, sleet is tricky. First off, just for those that maybe forgot or don't remember, sleet are those little ice pellets that will ping off the side of your house, ping off the deck, ping off the car. It's very different from freezing rain. Freezing rain is perhaps the most dangerous type of precipitation we get here. That's the stuff that falls, instantly freezes on everything, and just creates a mess, an icy mess of everything. Whereas sleet doesn't really adhere to anything. It's just little ice balls that can accumulate a little bit, but really not much.
It's not the fluffy snowflakes.
Not the fluffy snowflakes either, right. And so what we're watching for here is at the upper layers of the atmosphere, there's going to be a warm tongue of air that's going to come in during the day tomorrow. We know that's going to get up through the Cape, through the South Coast, probably through the South Shore. The question is, does it continue to push north up to the Pike or even perhaps up to the Mass-New Hampshire border? One of our more trusted models is saying yes, while others are saying it's probably going to hold right around the Pike. So that's where all the snow total situation is going to be made or broken.
Yeah.
Are we going to get 8 to 12 inches? Only if that sleet line stays further south. If it comes farther north, those, you'll see later today, Eric Fisher's going to be in. We'll be hammering out the totals once again, looking at the latest data and trying to figure out exactly where that sleet line reaches.
What's remarkable about this storm, too, is let's say we in Boston get 6 inches of snow. That takes us to an average snowfall season, despite the fact that a lot of the cards, when you look at the global patterns, were up against this being an average season.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, I think, really three snowfall events this entire winter.
Yep.
The winter's been really ruled by three events. The blizzard, there was the February 13th and 14th snow. This one's going to be actually the fourth one. But we're talking about 24 hours of snow where it snowed in Boston, and that encompasses the entire snow for the season. Kind of a wacky season. I did just get a question from Benjamin. Are we expecting any power outages from this storm? Jacob, I think the good news is this is really just about the snow and sleet, not really about anything else.
Exactly, yeah. So when it's a single factor storm like this being a fluffy snow event, I don't expect there to be power outages. Certainly with a little bit of mixing potentially as you get to those warmer areas, Bristol and Plymouth County, it always becomes a question mark. But that is not a concern as you go north and west of town out into Worcester County, Middlesex County, even into Essex County. I don't expect there to be really any power outage issues.
Yeah, and another question from Jason Durgan asking about the winds. Will there be high winds? Should we ready the generator? Again, good news there as well. Again, this storm is really about the snow and the sleet. We could see gusts tomorrow out of the east-northeast, 25, maybe 30, but that's nothing. I mean, compared to the blizzard, compared to even any old good old-fashioned nor'easter here, that's a day in the park, really, for the folks at the coast.
This is a tame storm.
A tame storm, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of those storms where it's really just about, I'm assuming, obviously, Massachusetts kids are off of school.
Yeah.
We already got a couple cancellations up in New Hampshire, so I saw a lot of folks will be canceling school up there. But vacation week, kids off, maybe folks are more concerned about travel. So, Jacob, I saw a couple of questions earlier about, I'm flying in Saturday. Kim was saying I'm flying in Saturday at 2 p.m. to Logan. I wrote her back on the side and said, listen, Logan should be fine. The snow should be tapering off, but who knows about residual delays? This is a storm that's affecting a large swath of the country.
Yeah, and that's always the question mark. We forecast the weather. Aviation depends on weather, but there are so many other factors when it comes to the aviation industry that we can't control. It depends on where your plane is coming from, that sort of thing too. But definitely you want to follow along with your airline very early on with this storm to make sure that you're not stuck at Logan for an extended period of time.
Let's talk about, I just put up a map behind you of the start times in general for the snow, because I know there's some folks that are probably still driving into work tomorrow, you and I, us included. Yeah. So let's maybe just discuss a little bit about when we see the first flakes.
Yeah, so I think by as early as midnight, we start to see some of those snowflakes arriving into the Berkshires, into the Connecticut River Valley, and then pushing from the west to the east as you go later into the morning. So we're talking 2 to 4 a.m. between Worcester and the Boston area, and a little bit later as you go up into the seacoast through Cape Ann up into the seacoast of New Hampshire. So the bottom line is this is going from the west to the east, and I think that most of us by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning are seeing that snow. We will transition over from the snow over to rain and sleet. You saw that pink line there. That was that transition line. Terry, can we cue that back up and show that once again? We're going in reverse here, showing you this is almost noontime tomorrow. You see where that rain snow line and sleet line has set up just to the south of the Pike through parts of Mansfield, Plymouth, Route 3. You would be seeing sleet in this instance. So don't take this as the gospel, but definitely watching that transition line very closely. If it stays like that, we're talking 8 to 12 inches for north and west of the Pike.
Yeah, and I have a couple of questions about folks who may have plans later tomorrow, maybe going out to dinner or, driving home from work on the evening commute. That map is behind you right there. It's 4:30, actually. So I think what's going to happen after about noon or 1 is what we call the dynamics. The best dynamics for the storm will move to northern New England. So I think most of the snow accumulation will probably be done by early afternoon. Areas north of the Pike will continue to see snow off and on, light to moderate, maybe get another inch or 2 at most. But I think by 1 or 2 o'clock, Jacob, I don't know if you agree, by 1 or 2 o'clock, the majority of the snow has fallen, and it's a matter of just cleaning up, getting the roads ready. And if you've got plans tomorrow night, you're probably okay. It might just take you a little extra time to get around.
And if you do the math, let's say it starts at 1 o'clock in the morning for parts of central Mass, and it snows for 12 hours at a snowfall rate of a ½ inch to an inch an hour without any sort of sleet mixing on in, you're talking about 6 to 12 inches of snow. That's kind of the math that we do in our heads to figure that out. And with those snowfall rates, I do expect road crews to not have as big of an issue than they had in some of the previous storms. Certainly the blizzard comes to mind, 2 to 3 inches per hour. When you have the ½ inch to 1 inch per hour, that's a lot. Yes, roads will get greasy for sure, but it's not going to overwhelm the system as much, I think.
Yeah, 2 points there. I think one, we're not going to see that intense banding that we saw in the blizzard. I mean, that's once every 10, 15, 20 years kind of thing. We had 3, 4, 5 inches of snow per hour. That's impossible to keep up with. That is not in the cards tomorrow. 1 inch an hour is still to be respected, but certainly nothing that I don't think road crews can keep up with. And I do think that, you know, a little bit later in the season, we're getting towards March, and a lot of times when snow falls during the day this time of year, it doesn't accumulate quite as well as if it fell overnight in darkness. So a lot of that stuff going on tomorrow afternoon, you know, again, the sun won't be out, but still the brightness of the day, the sun angle, all comes into play here in late February. So a lot of the stuff that falls after 2 p.m. I think will just sort of be nuisance.
Yep, for sure. And what's interesting on that same sort of note, Terry, is in the wake of this storm, sometimes we just melt it right away. We really don't have the big push of mild air. And so as we head into the last few days of February and into March, I mean, we really don't get a lot of melting done. Is this March 1st, I think, Tuesday, March 1st?
I believe so.
Anyway, this is the start of March here. And so we really don't have those melting temperatures. I mean, maybe we'll get a little melting done on Sunday, but it is not going to be that just dump the snow and then a couple days later it's gone. This is going to kind of linger a little while.
That being said, I do think if there's a little bit of snow left on the driveway, a little bit of ice over the weekend, you know, that late February, early March sun does a lot of good. So it'll probably be vaporized in no time. But like you said, no big, huge warm-ups or rain or anything coming to completely wipe out the new snow cover.
Right.
Jacob, we should probably wrap this up. You got to get ready for the noon.
I do.
Obviously, Eric will be back this afternoon, and he and I will be, the three of us will be, you know, hammering over the data, looking at all the new stuff coming in.
Yes. So thank you to everyone tuning in on CBS News Boston, on Facebook Live. As always, we're here for you 24/7 on our streaming service. We're happy to bring that to you. If you have any questions, bring those to us. We'll have much more later this afternoon.
WBZ.
Breaking news, dozens of deaths and injuries have already been reported in Ukraine after NATO officials confirmed that Russia waged war on its neighbor overnight.